So, listen to this. They say Lamine Yamal is football's next miracle, a player doing things at 16 that others never managed in an entire career. And maybe that part is true. But here's the uncomfortable question no one seems willing to ask. Why is a teenager already being spoken about like a finished symbol? Think about it carefully. We are no longer just watching Lamine Yamal play football. We are watching him carry expectations that usually belong to eras, not players. Talent can emerge naturally. Pressure never does. And when pressure appears this early, this loudly, this aggressively, it's usually because someone, somewhere, needs it to. This isn't a story about whether Lamine Yamal is good enough. This is a case about why football seems desperate for him to mean so much so soon. This case is not about questioning Lamine Yamal's talent. That part is obvious, and denying it would be dishonest. The real question sits somewhere else, much deeper and far more uncomfortable. It's about why his rise has been framed the way it has, and why the football world seems so eager to rush toward conclusions that normally take years to earn. Because when you strip away the highlights, the records, and the headlines, a different pattern starts to emerge. This isn't just the story of a gifted teenager breaking through. It's the story of a system that needs a successor, a narrative that needs continuity, and an industry that cannot afford uncertainty after the Messi and Ronaldo era. Yamal didn't ask to become a symbol. He didn't ask to be compared, projected, or forecasted into a future that hasn't happened yet. But football has done this before. And every time it insists that this case is different. The purpose of this case file is simple, not to decide how good Yamal will be, but to understand why so much meaning has been placed on his shoulders before he has even had time to breathe.
To understand how we got here, you have to look at how quickly everything accelerated. Lamine Yamal didn't just break into Barcelona's first team early. He was immediately placed into moments that usually define careers, not begin them. Big matches, high-pressure situations, international tournaments, decisive minutes. And with each appearance, the language around him escalated just as fast. Youngest ever this, youngest ever that. Every touch framed as proof, every mistake quietly ignored. This is how narratives are built, not through lies, but through selection. Certain moments are amplified, others are softened, and some are simply skipped. When Yamal has quiet games, they are described as learning experiences. When he produces something special, it becomes a sign of destiny. That contrast matters because it shows how the story is being protected while it's still being written. Then there's the comparison machine. Messi is never mentioned directly at first, but he's always there, hovering in the background. Same club, same left foot, same wing, same age when the breakthrough happened. The similarities are convenient, even when the context is completely different. Messi emerged into a Barcelona that was stable, dominant, and structured around senior leaders. Yamal is emerging into a club still trying to recover its identity, finances, and credibility. Yet the comparisons keep coming because they serve a purpose. They create familiarity. They make the story easier to sell. And most importantly, they give fans something they desperately want to believe in: continuity. But here's where things start to feel uncomfortable. Because the more responsibility Yamal is given, the less margin for normal development he seems to have. Teenage footballers are supposed to fluctuate. They grow, they dip, they disappear for weeks, sometimes months. That's not failure, that's biology. But when a player is already framed as the future, fluctuation becomes a problem. Every dip needs explaining, every off game needs context. And slowly, without anyone explicitly saying it, the pressure changes shape. It stops being about performance and starts being about expectation management. Look at how often Yamal is described not just as a player, but as an answer to Barcelona's post-Messi void, an answer to Spain's search for a new star, an answer to football's need for a new teenage icon in a post-superstar era. Answers are dangerous things to place on developing shoulders because answers are expected to be consistent. People don't accept answers that hesitate. None of this means Yamal isn't exceptional. It means his environment has decided that exceptional is no longer enough. He has to be symbolic. He has to be reassuring. He has to represent a future that feels safe. And that's when talent quietly stops being the main story and becomes the supporting detail.
Here's the part where the story quietly turns. Because once you zoom out just a little, something becomes clear. The problem isn't that Lamine Yamal is being overrated. The problem is that Barcelona doesn't really have another choice. This isn't the Barcelona that eased talents in slowly, protected by stability and success. This is a club recovering from financial collapse, reputational damage, and the emotional vacuum left by Messi's departure. They don't just need results, they need belief. And belief in modern football is sold through symbols. A young face, a clean story, a future you can point to and say, "We're going to be fine." In that context, Yamal isn't just a footballer breaking through. He's a solution to multiple problems at once. He reassures fans that La Masia still works. He reassures sponsors that the brand still has a future. He reassures the media that there is a new chapter to write instead of another crisis to explain. None of this requires bad intentions. It doesn't need a conspiracy. It's simply how systems behave when they're under pressure. They attach hope to whatever looks stable enough to carry it. And here's the uncomfortable part. Once a player becomes that solution, protecting the narrative becomes just as important as protecting the player. Minutes are justified, responsibility is framed as trust, risk is reframed as bravery. The line between development and dependence starts to blur. Yamal isn't being rushed because people don't care. He's being rushed because too many things now depend on him existing exactly as promised. The story needs him to keep moving forward smoothly, without interruption. That's when the weight really begins to shift, not onto his legs, but onto his identity. Because it's one thing to ask a teenager to play football. It's another to ask him to represent recovery, renewal, and reassurance for an institution that hasn't fully healed yet. And once that happens, every performance stops being just a performance. It becomes a statement, a signal, proof that the plan is still working. At that point, the question is no longer whether Lamine Yamal can handle the pressure. The real question is whether football has learned how to stop creating it.
Once you step back far enough, Lamine Yamal's situation stops looking unique and starts looking familiar. Modern football no longer waits for greatness to reveal itself. It manufactures anticipation first and lets development try to catch up. Media ecosystems need constant renewal. Narratives cannot pause. The Messi-Ronaldo era didn't just leave a sporting gap, it left a storytelling vacuum. Broadcasters, sponsors, platforms, and even awards depend on the idea that the next era is already here. Uncertainty doesn't sell, continuity does. That's where teenage stars become invaluable. Youth compresses time. It allows football to skip the uncomfortable years of transition and jump straight into future talk. When a 16-year-old breaks through, the message isn't just that he's good, it's that the future has arrived early and nothing has been lost. That message is powerful, and it explains why hype escalates so quickly, so aggressively, and often without breaks. Agents understand this, brands understand this, Clubs understand this. A young player with a clean image, elite technical ability, and a famous badge behind him becomes a perfect asset, not just on the pitch, but across every layer of the football economy. Shirt sales, global reach, social media traction, award narratives, even discussions around the Ballon d'Or increasingly function less as evaluations and more as marketing cycles. The earlier a name enters that cycle, the longer it can be monetized. But systems don't experience pressure the way humans do. They externalize it. When a teenager struggles, the language shifts, context is added, responsibility is redistributed, the story adapts. What doesn't change is the expectation that the story must continue. And that's where the risk hides. Not in injuries or form dips alone, but in the slow erosion of normal development. Because when a player is always framed as the future, there is no safe space to simply be present. We've seen this pattern before, not just at Barcelona, not just in Spain, but across generations. Players introduced as answers rather than individuals. Players protected by narratives until the moment the narrative needs someone else. Football rarely announces when it moves on. It simply stops waiting. In that wider system, Lamine Yamal isn't being singled out, he's being absorbed. Absorbed into an industry that values momentum over patience, symbolism over silence, and reassurance over reality. And once that happens, even the most genuine talent becomes part of something much larger than himself.
So where does that leave Lamine Yamal? Somewhere between promise and projection, between talent and symbolism. None of this means he won't become a great player. None of it means the faith placed in him is wrong. But it does raise a question football rarely likes to sit with for too long. How much pressure is too much before talent even has time to breathe? Because history shows that football doesn't break players by asking them to be good. It breaks them by asking them to mean something before they're ready to understand what that meaning costs. Yamal didn't choose to become a narrative. He didn't choose to be a reassurance, a recovery plan, or a marketing cycle. He chose to play football. Everything else arrived around him, quietly, efficiently, and with good intentions. And that's what makes this case uncomfortable. There's no villain here, just a system that keeps repeating the same pattern, convinced that this time it will end differently. Maybe football has learned from Ansu Fati. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe Lamine Yamal will grow into everything he's been projected to be and more. Or maybe, years from now, we'll look back and realize that the real mistake was never his development, but our impatience. Some cases are closed by results. Others remain open because the question was never really about the player at all.